Hello students, and welcome to our presentation on the Pythagorean Theorem. Pythagoras of Samos was a Greek mathematician who lived about 3,000 years ago. One of his more well-known discoveries was a useful fact about right triangles. Pythagoras discovered that if the hypotenuse of a right triangle has a length, say c, and the legs have a length of a and b, then c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Here's a visual representation of what Pythagoras was saying. If you were to build a square off the shortest leg, calling it a squared, build a square off the medium-sized leg of the triangle, call it b squared, add those two areas together, it would equal the square that you could build off the hypotenuse, labeled here as c squared. Question: could this be a right triangle with measurements of 4, 5, and 7? The answer is no, because 4 squared plus 5 squared does not equal 7 squared. If you look at the math, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 7 squared is 49, and 16 plus 25 does not equal 49. So we would say these measurements could not make a right triangle. Could this be a right triangle with measurements of 5, 12, and 13? Yes, because 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. Take a look at the math. 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144, 13 squared is 169. 25 plus 144 equals 169. Take a look at this question. If A is equal to 3 and side B is equal to 7, how could we find side C? Do the math. 3 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared. That's 9 plus 49 equals c squared. C squared equals 58. When you take the square root of it, you get about 7.62. Try to find the missing side here. If A is 4 and C, the hypotenuse, is 9, let's find the other leg, B. 9 squared is equal to 4 squared plus b squared. That means 81 equals 16 plus b squared. 81 subtract 16 is equal to b squared, so b squared is 65. When you take the square root of 65, you get about 8.06. Let's try some practical examples here. An airplane flies 90 miles east and then 60 miles north. How far is it from its starting point? Well, if you recognize that flying east and then north connect those dots to make a right triangle, you will see that we can make A equal 60, B equal 90, and then solving for C, the hypotenuse. Here's the math. 60 squared plus 90 squared equals c squared. That's 3,600 plus 8,100 equals c squared. C squared equals 11,700. Take the square root. That's about 108 miles. Here's another example. The foot of a 6-meter ladder is 2.5 meters away from the base of a wall. How high up the wall does the ladder reach? Once again, we're going to build a right triangle. A is equal to 2.5. C, the hypotenuse, which in this case is the ladder, is 6. We're going to solve for B, one of the legs. 2.5 squared plus b squared equals 6 squared. 6.25 plus b squared equals 36. B squared equals 36 minus 6.25, which is about 29.75. Still have to take the square root, and that comes to about 5.45. So we'll say about 5 meters. Here's one more. A square tile measures 10 centimeters on each side. What would be the length of the diagonal of the square? So when you're cutting a square and getting the diagonal, that is the hypotenuse. So A is 10, B is 10 because they're both sides of the square. We're looking for C, the hypotenuse. So that's 10 squared plus 10 squared equals C squared. 100 plus 100 equals C squared. 200 equals C squared. Take the square root, you get 14.14. Thanks for watching. Now try some of the practice problems in the handout.